Now, let me tell y'all something. There's a man around these parts who's seen more life than most of us could imagine. In a world that moves too fast, sometimes it's the quiet souls who teach us the most. This is the story of Mr. Willie James, a man who lived nearly a century and proved that a simple life can be the most powerful of all. Born back in the fall of 1927, right here in a little southern country town where red dirt roads ran like veins through cotton fields and the sound of whippoorwills marked the end of every day. Mr. James came from a big family. His mama, Mrs. Emma James, she was indeed something special. A godly woman who loved to sing, though the dogs would start barking every time she tried. Her work was right there inside those walls, raising babies, mending clothes, and filling that house with warmth. But Lord, that woman could cook. Every Sunday, you could smell her kitchen halfway down the dirt road. Biscuits browning in the oven, greens simmering with smoked meat, and cornbread so good it'd make you thank the Lord right there at the table. She believed food was love, and nobody under her roof or any neighbor passing by ever went hungry. Mr. James used to say, "Mama can take nothing but a pot and some prayer and turn it into supper." She was the heart that held that family together. His daddy was a hard worker, a farmer through and through, growing cotton and corn out on that red dirt land. He started out with nothing but a mule and a wagon, and over the years managed to save enough to buy his very first car, a shiny black T-model Ford. Folks around town said you could hear that engine coughing before it came up the road. And every time he drove it, Mr. James sat right there beside him, eyes wide with pride. Now his daddy, Mr. Elijah James, was a quiet man, the kind who didn't waste words, but made every one of them count. Folks said he could fix just about anything with his hands, from a busted wagon wheel to a neighbor's broken fence. He'd rise before the rooster crowed, pull on those worn-out boots, and head out to the fields till the sun went down. Never complained, never asked for more than what he earned. He taught young Willie that a man's word was his bond, and that faith without hard work was just wishing thinking. On Sunday mornings, after church, you'd find him sitting under the big oak tree with his Bible open, letting the breeze turn the pages. He wasn't rich in money, but he was rich in pride, purpose, and peace. And he passed every bit of that on to his boy. One summer, a storm rolled through that little town. Thunder so loud it rattled dishes in the cupboards, wind howling like it had lost its way. The roof lifted clean off the barn, and water poured in faster than they could catch it. The children cried, clutching their mama's dress, but she just started humming Amazing Grace, praying out loud till the storm passed. When the sun came up, half their crop was gone. But their daddy stood tall in the mud, looked at his family, and said, "We still got what matters most." That night, as the family sat around the table eating biscuits and molasses, Mr. James learned that storms don't come to destroy you. Sometimes they come to remind you what can't be taken away. Life in those days wasn't kind to a young black boy with big dreams. Every morning, Willie walked over 5 miles to school, in the heat, the cold, and the rain. He'd see school buses rumbling by, full of white children laughing with their lunches packed neat. Not one bus ever stopped, but still, he walked on. He owned one pair of shoes, thin-soled, patched, and worn from the journey. One winter, the cold bit so deep his toes turned numb. His teacher noticed and quietly gave her her son's old pair. He took them, tears in his eyes, but only wore 'em on Sundays. I didn't want pity, he'd say, just a fair chance. That moment taught him something powerful. Kindness don't make you small. It lifts you higher when your heart's right. Up the road was a white family with 2 boys his age. Wouldn't you know it, they became the best of friends. They played marbles in the dust, skip rocks at the creek, and sneak biscuits from each other's kitchens. Sometimes he'd stay for supper, sitting right there at the table, breathing in the smell of cornbread and gravy. Those boys never saw him as different, just a friend. One day, that daddy offered to take them all into town. Now Willie climbed into that truck proud as ever, feeling grown, feeling free. But when they pulled up to the country store, the man turned and said softly, "Willie, you stay here, son." He didn't ask why, didn't need to. The world had already taught him what that meant. He'd sit and watch them go inside, hear the laughter spilling out the windows. But when they came back, that man always had something for them. Maybe a piece of candy, maybe a cold pop. And every time he'd say, "Didn't forget about your son." Mr. James said that's when he learned not every heart followed the rules the world tried to make. As the years rolled on, the South stayed heavy with its burdens. But it wasn't all hate and hurt. Sometimes light would break through, sometimes in the most unexpected places. See, there was a sheriff back in town, name long forgotten to most, but not to Mr. James. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a Bible that looked worn from being opened too often. He didn't turn his head when he saw wrong being done. He quietly helped folks out, black or white, made no difference to him. If a man's wagon broke down, that sheriff would stop, roll up his sleeves, and fix it. If a widow couldn't afford groceries, a basket would appear on her porch come Sunday morning. And every Sunday, he sat in the same church pew, tears rolling down his cheeks when the preacher spoke on forgiveness and mercy. Mr. James used to say, that sheriff was proof that even in a crooked world, God still planted good seeds in certain hearts. One evening, Willie heard a story that stuck with him forever. A black man had walked into a whites-only diner, bold as brass, sat down and ordered a meal like he belonged there. The room went still. Nobody breathed, but no one stopped him either. One of the waitresses, young woman with kind eyes, started seeing him in secret. 2 souls just trying to be seen as human. When word spread, the sheriff heard before trouble did. He went to that man's house, knocking gentle. "Son," he said, "it's time to go." No judgment, just care. He helped him pack, hid him in the trunk of his patrol car, and drove under a moon bright as heaven's eye. He took him far beyond the county line, prayed over him, and said, "God keep you safe." Mr. James said, that night changed me, because in a time when men use power to divide, that sheriff used his to protect. Grace don't always come in church clothes. Sometimes it wears a badge. When Willie turned 17, he left for the city. Big dreams, worn shoes, and a prayer in his pocket. He shined shoes, loaded crates, drove trucks, anything to get by. It was behind the wheel he found his purpose, driving deliveries across town. That's where he met Miss Clara, pretty little thing humming hymns while mopping the hallways. He says she smelled like sunshine after rain. They fell in love, married in a small church with white curtains, and raised 6 children who grew up strong and kind. Even now at 98 years old, Mr. James keeps a small garden behind his house, tomatoes, greens, and a few sunflowers. He says it reminds him of his daddy's fields. Sometimes He sits out there humming one of his mama's old tunes, hands in the dirt, smiling. He says, "The secret to life ain't what you gather, it's what you grow." Now here we are, October 2025. And Mr. James, Lord, that man's still going strong. 98 years old, still thanking the Lord for every sunrise. If you ever get a chance, pull up a chair on his porch. He'll talk, you'll listen, and before you know it, you'll realize you just spent time in the presence of a miracle that walked right out of history. Thank you for watching.